with Wyatt White, and Wyatt is inspired by music. He's a classical musician. He's also a talented jewelry maker, and you're going to show us how to make this wire-wrapped bracelet with handmade components.
Yes.
Right? So tell us about the music.
Well, music inspires me. Bach and the whole Baroque period is a very precise time in music, and that's what I think of when I'm doing this type of wire work.
And there are other types of wire work, of course, that are a little more out there, but this particular piece is you have to be very precise.
Well, it's jewelry, not brain surgery, so it can be a little bit off. Have fun with it. It's not something that's...
Yeah, well, tell us about the wire.
Wire comes in various shapes, and there are some new wires out on the market which are very good. We have round, we have fancy round, which is one of the newest, half round, which is this. It's basically half of a round, and then square with 4 sides. And the new really fun one is a fancy square.
So that gives it a twisted effect, but you don't have to twist it because it's already twisted.
And you still have the square edges to be able to do the wrapping to hold everything together.
Great. Okay, and the bracelet that we're making today is made of different components that are all linked together.
Yes. The components themselves actually link together because you have one on a vertical and one on a horizontal.
Oh, okay.
So each connects with the other.
And then here's a version that's in stainless steel, so you can see the difference. If you were using silver plate or stainless, it gives it a more grayish appearance, I guess you would say.
Correct. So almost a platinum look, really.
Yeah, I love it.
And then some other ideas for componentry. You can do a lot of very different things. This is using a brass and stainless.
Well, let's get started.
Okay, since we're talking about precision, the best thing I find to do is to cut your pieces all the same size in the beginning for the entire bracelet.
So set it up before you begin.
Right, and I find this tacky mat very, very useful because you can put things, all of your component parts on this, and if it gets jostled, nothing goes around. But
that's a great tip.
You can still pull the part off very easily. So we want to put our safety glasses on whenever cutting wire. Even with glasses, it's always a really good idea to put the glasses on over your glasses because it gives more protection under. And remember, whenever you're cutting the wire, things, people, and animals around you can have some trouble with it also.
Yeah. I always tell people to watch out, it goes flying.
Yes, definitely.
Hold your hand over the end if you can.
So to cut the component parts, simply use one of the parts, use a flush cutter with the flush side toward the wire that you're going to leave that's going to be used in. You have a flush side, and then you have the other side, which kind of makes a point.
So when you cut it on the flush side, it cuts it off a flat edge on that side.
Correct. So you just cut your component parts, and one thing that I've learned to do when you're using the half round wire, you want to bend your components in the beginning. So again, you would cut your wire, flush side with the part that you're going to leave, and then use a piece of the square wire, the diameter that you're going to be using. It comes in several diameters. You want to bend this over, and I like to use a bent chain nose plier. You hold this and just squeeze that nice and tight around the square wire. Now this is going to be used for a single square wire and not a double square wire on the side. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute.
Okay, so then after you do that, what happens next?
Next, you would use a long wire, 2 short wires, and the piece that you just made.
And you're binding it together then?
Yes, this is what we call binding with the half round. The half round you always want to bend so that the flat part is going to be against the square wire.
Okay.
Use this, slide it on, and very carefully squeeze, and make sure that these 2 wires come apart. Then you're going to bend this wire down and this wire forward. Now this is the hard part here, is to use the bent chain nose pliers to squeeze, to tighten this. And you squeeze backward and forward.
So you want it to be really nice and flat.
You want it to get it really nice and tight, and then bend this one down and squeeze that. And you want to bend at each half movement so that this becomes nice and tight. And
you're always using your pliers.
Yes, always using the pliers.
So say when we get to this step here, that's showing us, you've already
Yes.
bound it together here, and then you've pulled these back.
Correct. We pull these out, and we're going to use the round nose pliers at this point to bend the wires in. And what you're going to use is the plier just like this, and then twist this in, letting the pliers do the bending.
And I noticed you're using the precision tip pliers.
Yes, these pliers are much smaller than most pliers. They're precision. One thing I didn't mention, it's really good to take emery paper, a very fine emery paper, and take the edge all the way around the pliers. Take the edge off so that you don't have a sharp mark in the wire.
And I love the sparkly handles.
Yeah, that kind of helps.
We love those tools.
So we continue to make the curls until we get the component to about here.
Okay.
Then from there, we're going to use the round nose pliers once again. And I've got a mark here so that all of my rings become the
good
same
idea.
size. You just slide this in, and then we're going to turn this like so, and then bring this back around, pulling on this wire.
So you're creating some tension there.
Right. Then since we have this with the almost completed circle, we're going to take, and again, using the flush side that's going to be left on the component, snip that off. And there we have a vertical ring. Then on the other side, we would make the horizontal ring, again, using the same place. Now here we're going to have to get a little distance in between us. Here, so this plier can go over like that,
And then around.
and then pull this around.
So on each component, you're going to make one that's vertical and one that's horizontal.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that each will then connect into the other.
And then for the clasp,
For the clasp, what I've done is on the last component, I would take a longer piece of wire and move this up like that, and then bend it over.
oh, so you're just making a hook.
You just make a hook.
So you'll fasten it to the beginning of the bracelet.
Exactly, that would hook back onto it.
Well, thank you so much, Wyatt. Let's look one more time at the bracelet. So here's where you'd fasten your last link, and your hook would just connect to the end of the bracelet.
Right, and on the opposite end, you would make one very large loop so that the hook could link into it.
Okay, and would this one be tightened then?
Yes,
Okay. Well, this is so great. Thank you, Wyatt.
you're welcome.